Hey everybody, it's Soger. I'm here today with Comrade Kane. We're going to be doing a little bit of a different thing here. We're going to be doing a buildings tier list.
Hey guys, we're back. This type of list, I don't believe exists. I don't know how much usefulness it's going to have, but I think it's going to be fun to discuss what buildings do you consider important, which is would be an S tier, and which buildings are sort of like at the bottom that provide you era score or tech or civic boost. The reason we're having this list is because Soger had some interesting insights that
Yeah.
when he
Well,
mentions things like watermill, which is one of the most important buildings in the game.
I
Eh,
think you actually got backwards. I had wrote a post about how much I love granaries. I think granaries are the perfect building. They're amazing, and people don't give granaries the credit they deserve. And then, as a counterpoint to that, I wrote that the watermill might be the absolute worst investment in the game, and people were furious. Like there were so many people defending watermills.
yeah, because it provides one production, for
Yeah,
example.
it's one production, one food, and then adds food to bonus like farmable resources. And people were like explaining how it's like the best thing for growth, and I was like, okay, but why? Like explain to me math wise how that is. And like everyone was just doing these like emotional, I have built watermills since the beginning of time. Like they're so great. I refuse to elaborate with any math why.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded worse than Petra attachment in
Yeah,
Wonderland.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but this list is really for players who are aiming, as usual, aiming to win as fast as possible on the deity level, right? We're just
yeah.
gonna
Yeah,
assume
yeah. I
that.
mean, really, if you're playing a more casual game, really, you should be building every building. I mean,
Exactly. Enjoy it,
like,
right?
enjoy your game. Like, don't let us tell you how to play.
Exactly.
This is for. Are you a tryhard? Do you want to do like really, really well? Okay, this is
Do
your
you want to
balance.
be the best in the world?
Yeah, this is balancing what a building costs versus what it's going to give. And plus, I just wanted to talk trash about a lot of buildings in game, and this gives me an excuse to give my opinion about all of the buildings that like I never bought, like build or even get near.
Perfect, perfect. Because I'm sure there are going to be a couple of buildings that you'll be like, "What is that thing?"
Oh,
Anyway,
I even said to you, I'm pretty sure there's buildings I don't know exist in game. I have thousands upon thousands of hours of sub 200 games alone, and there's buildings in this game I don't know exist. I know that for a fact.
well, stay tuned with us and find
Yeah.
out which buildings Sogar has no idea about.
Yeah.
All right, let's start with the city center. And
Yeah. Oh,
first
I think
up,
we should just throw in before you jump on that. I think we should just throw in we had sort of a discussion. We aren't doing any of the unique buildings, the
that's
buildings
right.
that are unique to civilizations. By and large, I looked, there is not a single unique building that's a bad build. Some of them aren't as good as other ones, mind you, like Georgia's unique walls. You might really want to balance like how much you need them, but I wouldn't say any of them are a bad build. They might not be as strong as some of the other ones, but none of them would really fall into just doing it for the boost. Even the Babylon watermill is actually pretty great when you compare it to a standard watermill.
Okay, perfect. That's the disclaimer out of the way.
Yeah.
So the first building is Monument. Pretty
Yes.
straightforward.
Well, the monument has a lot of things going for it. Right off the bat, the monument is it's available the moment you start the game. Turn one, you can start building a monument, which is huge. Availability or when something becomes available is really a strong thing to factor in when you're figuring out its overall value. The earlier something's available, inherently it's going to be stronger. If you can't build something till halfway through the game, obviously it's not that great. Just because you have less game to do it. Monument, you're getting culture right away. If you build it, you're almost doubling your culture. If you build it first thing, and culture is just so vital. It also adds loyalty if you need it. So on your forward settles, buying a monument right away. It's only +1 loyalty, but that's, it's an extra thing to factor in. That can save you a couple of turns before you hit the 50% where your growth rate is slowed and it gets even harder to hold the city. So monuments are in my opinion one of the best. Like when you're considering like, overall value, monuments, I'd say, are gonna be one of the top buildings. Yeah, as the game progresses, they tend to lose value, but the early like, I'd say well into, like, medieval era, you're still getting so much value out of a monument. It's never a bad build. You don't have to build it right away, but at no point do I think a monument's a bad build. Also, when you consider its synergy with like heroes and legends mode and stuff like that, which only adds more value to it. I think it's just like Monument is sort of like the peak building. It provides you a lot at the time, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, and in your early build order, right? It's like
Yeah.
one of the first things you tend to
Yes.
build because of the impact of culture, right?
Yes.
It's incredible. You want to get to those again, earlier governments and policies and whatnot. And monument is, I mean, there isn't too many sources of culture at that point.
Exact and that's the other thing. It's providing a yield that is really hard to get any other way.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
and it's cheap,
cult
and it's
yeah.
dirt cheap. You know,
Yeah,
I mean,
culture is so important, especially when you factor in the impact of those early civics. Like, I don't think people realize just how much value is crammed into that civics tree uh, before your first government even. Like, you're getting at early empire, you're getting open borders. You're getting if you want the 50% production towards settler card. Like, so getting more culture early game is so massive. I would say easily, I don't know if it's the best building, but right now I wanna say that when you're looking at what a good building is, it's gonna be that. It provides a strong bonus at the time, and it provides, like, length of game bonus.
all right, let's go to the next one. I think
Yeah.
Monument. Well, so I placed it at the top of the tier, basically.
Yeah.
Um, High value and important to build. And I guess the question is like, at what point do you stop building monuments? And my opinion, you don't, because early on it's important to build it and get it up and running in your core cities, and later on, I mean, it's cheap and you should have an economy running good enough to just purchase them.
And you said, "When do you stop building monuments?" In my opinion, you stop building I would say you stop building buying monuments when you're not building anything anymore. Once you've sort of transitioned into that, I'm running theater square projects, I'm
Mhm.
running campus projects. When that's sort of your default, once you've sort of hit that, I've got entered the mid to or late mid late stage of the game, that true culture isn't doing anything for you anymore. Obviously, if you do a forward settle and you're trying to squeeze every bit of loyalty, you'd still build a monument there. But once you're sort of transitioning into your late game push, that monument isn't paying off that much anymore.
The next thing. So I guess this is one of your favorites as well.
Granary, yeah,
I mean, we have +1 food and 2 housing, which doesn't seem like much, right?
it doesn't.
But it comes so early.
It comes early, and let me explain. And this is what I didn't know how to explain how why I like granaries, but granaries are designed in a perfect way when you factor it into everything I believe about the game. When you look at okay, the perfect city has 7 to 10 population. Granary with 2 housing gets you to 7 to 10 population in every instance except for a non-freshwater set or a non-water settle. And even then you can get to the 7 population with just a granary. But on a river or lake settle, you can easily get to 10 population with a granary being your only source of housing. A coastal city, you can get to 7 population pretty easy. You're only getting so many population over your housing, and you're not hitting the huge wall of negative, like, I think 75% growth it reaches to, because you can only get 5 population over your housing. But when you look at, like, a no water city only has 2 housing to start off with, Granary brings up to 4. Well, four population gets you 2 district, which is your trade district and then either a theater or a campus, depending on which victory you're going for. A coastal city has 3 housing. Granary gives it 2 more. That gets you up to 5, which easily you can get your 7 population for your 3 districts. A freshwater city, 7. It's just a perfect thing. The one food is irrelevant.
It's
Um,
it has a great synergy, right? With
yeah,
city growth in order to get more districts or that extra
exactly.
district built early
Yeah.
on.
And my big thing is if you compare it to the other sources of housing early game is farms. And farms, in my opinion, are the worst improvement because it just takes an average tile and makes it slightly better average. Like there's no farm tile that's good unless it's a wonder tile or a disaster tile that's been improved. You're looking at one production at the most. Yeah, you can get the irrigation eureka, but after that, you're just building farms to build farms. But there's the huge negative of now if barbarians get in your territory or you have someone declare war on you, all your farms are free health for them. So it's a huge negative in the sense that anyone who gets in your territory, your farms are actually hurting you
Hmm.
for housing.
Hmm.
Where a granary can't be pillaged, a disaster can't hit it. Nothing can damage a granary. You always have the 2 housing. Like, it's perfect, it solves all your needs, it's available super early, and then you never need to worry about housing again.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. If you follow
I
the
mean,
logic of that, the highest pop city you need to win is a 7, right?
yes.
So where would you throw it on the chart here?
Oh, it's clearly S tier. Oh, it's
Right next to the
yeah,
monument.
like, if it provided, like, a game winning yield, I would say I mean,
Here's the thing with the granary, right? The
yeah.
lasting effect is longer, right, than
Yep,
monument because two housing is two housing. That doesn't
yep,
diminish as the game progresses.
mhm.
I mean, you have more sources of housing, but granary would still be useful,
Yeah, and the
more
thing
useful
is,
than a monument later
yeah, I
on.
would
That's what I
actually say
mean.
granary is better because end game, you're still building granaries if you wanna squeak out another district.
Yes, yes,
Like like
exactly.
like,
Like science
granted
game, I guess, and you need more campuses, right?
exactly.
Um,
Like, and I get aqueducts and neighborhoods and everything exist, but every single thing has way more negatives than a granary, which is gonna cost 260 gold length of game. At the start of the game, it's 260 gold, at turn 150, it's 260 gold, and every single time, it's giving you all the housing you need for a 7 population city.
okay, perfect. Here's the next building.
Yes.
That looks like a watermill. I mean, I feel like this building. I always forget to build it. First of all, even to
Yep.
boost construction, right? Because that's the tech boost
Yes.
with the watermill. I mean, what it? Let me pull up what it actually provides so that I
It
know
provides
exactly.
1 food, 1 production, and 1 food to every bonus resource that's
Ah,
improved by a farm.
uh-huh.
So
And
now
so now you can't really build it in any city because the city must be on the river, right?
correct.
Okay. So yeah, I can see I can see if my city has a bunch of bonus resources and I'm already improving them for farms for whatever
Yep.
reason. Maybe I'm getting to feudalism and all of that. then yeah, it totally makes sense. Why the hell not? But if watermill provided something else like housing, it would
Yeah.
be a whole other
And
story.
that's
But
why the Babylon version of this is so much better,
uh-huh.
is it also provides two housing, if I'm not
Uh-huh.
mistaken,
There
off
you
the top of
go.
my head.
There you
Like,
go.
which it adds two housing. It just adds one food to every tile adjacent to freshwater. So much better. The problem with this is one food to bonus resources improved by a farm, which is rice and wheat, and maize. Okay, maize in general doesn't have production on it. So you're going to get food and 2 gold per turn.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean the only thing you would, I guess, the reason you would build it is to enhance existing farms
exactly.
that you
But,
already
but that's
built.
what I'm saying. Is so maize, food, gold per turn. Wheat, food, one production. It will never be more than one production. Rice, zero production. Like, so it's just food. The whole point of having population is to get yields. If your main yields that that population is providing is just food for more population, you're working tiles to cost you amenities. Those tiles should be providing something, and all those tiles are doing is providing you like more population. Okay, if all those tiles are going to achieve is getting you more populations, why don't you just chop them, get that food right away? Like,
What if it's a city with a low food area,
you
like plains, where you can
you still
actually
will
it
get more
has.
population quicker chopping. Even if you're in starvation, if you chop enough tile to reach your next population, you'll grow your next population.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah,
following
it's a
that
good point
logic,
that food buildings in general, right?
yeah,
They carry so much less value than the housing buildings
yeah,
to begin with. Food is easier to get, right?
mhm,
By
trade
improving
route,
trade routes is like would be number one thing, I
yep.
guess. But then also improving terrain and whatnot. Whereas housing is much more difficult to get.
Yeah, and that is, and this is my overall problem with this, is the watermill improves tiles that are good in the very, very early game. I would put it down in Era Score Tech Civic Boost. But it improves tiles that are good in the early game. A 3-1 tile, a 3 food, 1 production tile is actually amazing. If I have one of those in my city on turn 1, I'm ecstatic because growth is so important. But by turn 50, a 3-1 tile has sort of lost its value. Like, it's not important
Hmm.
anymore. Like,
Hmm.
I have trade routes going. My trade routes can give me more food than I'm ever gonna need. So why am I concerned about creating 3-1-4-1 tiles when now I'm trying to get districts out? I'm just gonna
Yeah,
chop the
if Watermill provided even if what if it acted as a district, food district, right? So that if you send a trade route to a city with a watermill, you get more food yield,
Yeah,
you know?
if it literally did anything else but like
Anything else that
legitimately,
it does.
if it affected food in any other manner than the way it currently does,
Mm-hmm.
I would be more apt to be impressed by it. The problem is right now it improves the worst tiles that exist in your empire after turn 50 or later.
Okay.
Like, these tiles are only good until you are actually going and have trade routes going.
Okay.
And then they're not as important anymore.
Fine. Fine. We'll drop the watermill all the way down. I mean, Don Quixote would be upset, but that's
I mean,
beside.
and let me just say, you can see in any of my videos, I build watermills pretty often in like desert and tundra cities. Sometimes one food is worth it. Like, I will say,
Well,
there's
because
been
you
many.
need that food to grow your city to population 4, probably.
Yeah,
Right?
there are times, but you will never find a situation where I build or buy a watermill where I don't out loud say, "This is a terrible investment, but I just want that one food."
Exactly.
I know it's not worth it, but I am making a calculated poor investment at that time.
Yeah. So you either build it for food or you build it for production.
Yeah.
No, no, you don't.
Production. Oh, come on now. Yeah, if you're building a watermill for production on turn
Wait,
81,
right? What did you say? It costs 80 production to
it
build
costs
it.
80 production. So you build a watermill, like let's say you just instantly have a watermill, 81 turns, you've finally gotten one production out of it.
That's right.
Like,
That's right. 80 turns later, that's was like half of the game for you.
yeah, watermill, worst investment so far. We'll see what else comes up.
Next, walls.
Yes.
What do you
I
think
would
of it?
say they're good for era score. And this is they're bad for tourism.
Well,
They
so
don't
let's
provide a
start,
lot.
but let's start with the, I guess what they provide to begin with. That's defense, right?
Yep.
Defense and city range strength and whatever else
Yep.
ability. Um, I mean, walls are situational. Like
Yes.
if you are building city on the coast and there are barbs, right? And
Yes.
let's talk ancient walls. I group them all together because I don't know. If I'm building walls for anything, it would be ancient walls.
Yeah.
I find
No,
myself
that's fair. You're never gonna build any wall over ancient wall unless you're just doing it for like the tourism end game. But anyways, continue.
right, exactly. So all I'm saying is it's situational. If
Yep.
there's some kind of an threat, right?
Yep.
External threat. So you start to build walls in this city and that city, but you wouldn't start building them everywhere. Tourism and culture. So that's a different approach, right? Like
Yes.
um, that's where I guess if you're a suzerain of Valletta, that'll be great. You just spend
Yes.
faith and buy the walls everywhere. That's not even a question, right? Like, why
Yeah.
not? But if you actually have to build wall, you can't buy walls otherwise, right?
Yeah.
So you
That's a
have to.
huge negative for them, is you can't buy them unless Valletta.
So you have to invest. I mean, you can use that government card, right? Policy
Hmm.
card that doubles the production, and maybe chop them. But then you spending chops on the wall. So it's like, how do you approach that culture tourism wise? Is it even worth it?
I personally don't think it's worth it.
Okay.
Huge caveat. As we said, you can only build walls unless Valletta's in game. If you find yourself, let's say earlier game, and you built your first district and you're just waiting for the next thing because the city has more production than growth and you didn't have a trade route, any number of situations, it's worth to build in like an early culture game if you don't have a better option in your city. I would say in a culture game you can build them, but once you get like theater squares, you're better off running a theater square project than building walls for tourism to get the more great writer, great artist, whatever points. But they do have a place in that they come early and it's something that you can use production on to kill turns between important builds.
I mean, where would you place it? Because to me, they definitely have a place in the game with the
Yeah.
situational things. There is an error score, but also tourism, right? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think it should be A tier.
I would say B tier because it
B
does have a
tier
use.
high,
Yeah,
right?
it
Like,
definitely B tier, sorry. Because it does have a use. Like you said, I've actually built walls defensively before because of
hmm
barbarians.
hmm
Like Russia, I mean, you can find a situation where building walls is a great idea in a lot of Russian cities. If you get bad barbarian RNG, oh yeah, walls can be great. Now, I wouldn't build them until I knew I had a need for them, but I'd say they're B because it does solve a problem.
next up is the sewer.
Awful.
So sewer, like every time I see sewer, it's when I'm trying to get to democracy. You
Exactly,
have
yeah.
to build four of them, right? So,
Yep.
but it does provide
It provides a decent
how
amount of housing.
a couple, I think two housing, right?
Yeah.
Which will push you to the next pop level. So, I mean, but at that point of the game,
It's irrelevant.
how much of it do you need exactly, right? Like I
It
know.
comes too late and provides too little. Like, it needs to provide more. It just because it just provides straight housing, if I'm not mistaken, right? There's no amenities or anything. I'm trying to remember
Yeah,
because
I'll double check and bring it up on the screen.
because if it provided a like, and this is where it just comes too late. You already have aqueducts, you have neighborhoods, you have even better options for housing. Yeah, you could make the same argument as like granaries in that, okay, it doesn't take a tile, it's not pillageable, but it's expensive. It's expensive and it has maintenance cost and like it comes late. Like at that point, you have better housing options even if you are even if you are just trying to grow a city forever, like it just seems like you have better options at that point for something
Yeah,
that just provides housing. So
housing
it provides the exact same amount as a granary.
as a
Uh,
greenery.
it costs 3 times as much as a granary, and it comes end game. So that's pretty that's awful. That's worse than a
Yeah,
water. Well,
it's really
it's better than a water bill.
it's it's really a building that, for the players who want to build taller cities, right? Like,
Yeah.
or if you're capital, right, and you want to push its housing as far as you
Yeah.
can because you want to get more districts in there, like in a science game or something like
Yeah,
that,
for like a trade route city. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But other than that, I mean, I guess it's higher than watermill.
No, I would say it should be right next to Watermill because even using the argument you just made there, by the time you reach the technology for Watermill or for sewers, you don't have that much growing time left. You've already sort of reached that peak where anything you do is going to fundamentally change the trajectory of the game.
Hmm.
Like your new cities are only going to provide diminishing yields at that point
Yeah.
because
If anything, like you said, you're growing those cities, you're going to require more amenities,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Like at that point, anything that you're creating is taken away from what you've already created.
Yeah.
Is like the easiest way
Yeah,
to
I,
say it.
I struggle with that, to be honest, with amenities, later
Yeah.
on, because happy cities, ecstatic cities provide 20% of yields. That's huge, right? And to
Yes.
sacrifice that just to grow your city larger, which will, require more amenities. If you're short on amenities, you can't get any more,
Yep.
then you're really shooting yourself in the foot by growing your cities at that point.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you
Yeah.
know what this is?
Flood barriers.
All right, all right, all right. So, I mean, flood barriers is something that you would build so late in the game that, and again, we're talking about 200, even 250.
You
It's
should
rare.
never you should never even question if you're gonna build these if you're going sub 200. If
Right,
you've
right.
ever put a turn into a flood barrier and you're trying to play a sub 200 game, your decision making is so poor you're never going to reach it. I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm just saying that you need to like really take a step back. Like if you're trying to win sub 200 and you've even debated a flood barrier, no, you're wrong. Sorry. Like
Yeah, and don't so exactly. So it's for games that last what
yeah.
beyond let's say 240, I guess. I don't know. I guess
I
at certain point, depending on your game,
yeah.
the climate starts to play a role.
When I
But
speed ran global warming with Germany, I was able to get the first level of water sub 200, but like that's hard. You're like like it wasn't easy. Like like I mean, so like if you're going for sub 200, a flood barrier will never be relevant to your game. It doesn't
yeah,
provide anything but saves tile. For people who are playing like Civ City, who are just empire building, it's good. Like I get it. You want to preserve your tiles. You want your empire to look the way it's looked. You don't want to lose stuff. I get that. But
yeah.
sub
I mean,
200, it's
yeah, it's either that, right? You're
yeah.
either playing Sim City or Civ City, or you're just playing a longer game, or like you said, you're on a mission to flood the world.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I've said this multiple times. I refuse to rank stuff higher. I refuse to to debate on your personal preference. Um, if you want to play a specific way, that's fine. But in a discussion of something's value, just because you've chosen to play a way that is, "Oh, I'm playing for fun, so I do this." Okay, well, then that you need to take that into account when people say that what you're doing is unimportant.
Yeah.
Like,
And
I'm not trying to be mean, but the same way I always concede, yeah, I understand a lot of people don't find joy in the way I play. People also need to realize that the way they play just isn't functionally correct a lot of the times.
right, if you want to be efficient, play like Soger and don't cry about it. All right.
Yeah.
The next one. So let's move on to, like, I guess usually one of the first build districts that you would build is
Yep.
the holy site, right? That
Yep.
comes with a shrine as its first building, which to me, all right, is pretty important.
Yes.
Profit points, more faith. Profit points is probably the bigger one.
Yeah.
Right, because we're trying to get into monumentality and earn faith. So shrine is up there for me.
Mhm.
Building a lot of holy sites usually, if you want to play efficiently, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I'll throw it in S tier probably. Maybe,
I
maybe
I I would actually disagree only in the sense that very quickly, I stopped building shrines, unless I'm doing like
you
a
stop
soup.
building them. What do you mean? Like how many? Wait, so how many shrines do you build? Are you talking about like five, or are you talking about like I built 15 shrines and then I stop?
About 5. I mean,
So
it really this is another situation where it depends on the production of my early cities and the cities I get to, because
well,
it comes down.
okay, hold on. So
Yeah.
I guess where I'm coming from, I'm playing a
Yep.
culture game,
Yep.
meaning that usually I need a lot of faith.
Correct.
Um, and so I build a lot of holy sites, and obviously, the more upgraded they are with buildings like shrines and temples, the better off
Yeah, the
I
more faith
am.
you're getting.
Right.
Well, I guess, yeah, I guess I've been playing a lot of science games lately, so I
Okay.
guess if we're that yeah, if we're going,
Because we
because
have to look at the buildings on
yeah,
and consider their impact on a victory, right? A win
exactly.
condition as well. So,
Because, like, in a science game, I'm gonna drop shrines a lot
right,
earlier.
right, right, right.
In a culture game, no, your argument is great. So I would say, yeah, S tier then, because, uh, like, the culture victory really should be, like, the culture religious victory,
Right.
because faith is so important.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah, I when you say that, I actually do concede. You're correct. Um, I would say in a culture game, your holy site buildings up to temple are almost as important as your theater square buildings.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
and I
then
would
so
s
so then temple is right next to it, I assume. That allows you to build apostles. And when it comes to religious game, right? That's a
Mhm,
direct impact on the religious game, a religious victory rather. So both of these buildings to me, shrine comes early, has a
mhm.
high impact.
I would say temple might be the lowest S tier,
Yeah, yeah.
just because the argument for shrine is there because it comes early and it's low, but temple is literally double the investment of a shrine, and I get that it provides twice as much,
Mhm.
but when you start looking at stage of game,
Mhm.
I feel a lot better about the shrine. I'm getting a bunch of those before turn 70.
Mhm.
Uh, by turn 70, how many temples have I made, and
Mhm.
how many am I gonna keep investing into, you get what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes. It
Um,
it depends on the game too, right? Like,
yeah,
what is my
yeah.
faith production? If it's
A
slow, then yeah,
Yep.
I'll build more temples. But if it's decent, then
Yeah, and then if we're talking a science game, I might only build 2 temples, like,
right,
honestly,
exactly,
and that's
exactly.
where it's like, if we're saying all victories are even, I might even say temple goes down to A, because if you look at a domination victory, I might not even build the 2 temples. Like,
But with domination victory, you use the Grandmaster's Chapel, right? Like,
Yep,
so you spend faith on purchasing units. So
correct.
being that that's the the way you do it, then wouldn't you say that temples are still playing pretty good role by providing you that faith?
Okay, but see, now you're making the argument of what I think is gonna help me win versus what's really going to help me win. You're saying, "I think that because a temple generates faith, it's going to help me." I picked Grandmaster's Chapel because I know there's so many faith pillages.
Oh, the pillaging. Yeah, pillaging
Yes.
always escapes me. Yeah, 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 okay.
Yeah, there's so many faith pillages. So I would say temple goes down to low A,
Mhm.
just because, like,
But
unless
without temple, you can't win. I guess you can win a religious victory,
yeah.
but generally you can't, right? Like, so I can't drop it to A because it like directly impacts the religious victory.
Yeah, but how many temples are you gonna build? Like this is this is the problem. If one of the big factors
Okay.
is, well, how many are you going to build in a standard game, and what is the value you're
Mm-hmm.
getting from it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even in a religious game, I'm only gonna build temples in my outlier cities.
Okay. Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. A tier will still serve to host the buildings that
Yeah.
have an impact on the victory. You just don't need as many.
Yeah, like where Shrine, like, not to go back, but Shrine is getting you that first monumentality. You're getting
Yeah.
the faith in
Yeah.
classical and even early medieval era, so you're just getting such a better return on that.
Yes. Okay. The next building is wow. That's probably
S
your
tier,
favorite.
S tier, S tier. It gives you great merchant points. It gives you a trade route. It's the best building.
Where am I putting it? It's S tier, but tell me how
Lighthouse
high.
and Market should be the absolute top
Like you mean
before everything else,
the highest
because
value in the
the
game?
absolute highest value in the game is Market, then Lighthouse. If you're playing multiplayer, it's Lighthouse, then Market. Um, like it's like I'm sorry that they're like the value of trade routes cannot be overstated. They are so vital to growing your empire. The second you can start building commercial hubs and harbor districts, like, you're just taking off. Your new cities are growing. Add on to that the great merchant points provided by a market. Great merchants are just insanely valuable. They are not flashy, but the bonuses provided with the trade routes, with the envoys, with the 25% to tourism, really late game great merchant, are so empire constructing strong that I can't overstate the value of either of those buildings.
I have learned to value the markets and lighthouses more because of trade routes,
Yep,
because of your strategy.
yep,
And it really changed my game.
yeah,
Just the use of trade routes as the cornerstone of feeding and growing your cities, and then increasing production to a ridiculous level in the science game, for example, by the
yeah,
end of the game, right?
mhm,
So the tools to get your trade routes online and active are markets and lighthouses. I mean,
yeah,
there's literally nothing else except like some great people and whatnot,
yeah,
right?
there's
Like,
a few great people and a few
so
wonders.
so you build either one of these, a
Yep,
lighthouse or a market, in basically every city at some point, right? Like when you settle your cities, and
mhm,
let's say you play a science game, at some point you don't even build campus as your first district, right? In many of
yeah,
those cities early on, or
mhm,
even later on. Sometimes I find myself in a science game and I have like 20 cities. That 20th city, if I'm settling it, let's say, I would find myself building a commercial hub first to get that
yes,
trade route and send it to the capital, oh, space city, for example, right?
mhm. Like, the simple thing is, if you watch any of my games, I will build almost any other building and buy a market.
Hmm.
Like,
You
okay, I
need to
need it.
get it ASAP, right?
Yeah,
Like I
it's
know
like,
this.
okay,
Yeah.
I'm choosing between a library and a market. Well, I'm gonna buy the market. I'm choosing between a temple and a market. Buying the market,
Hmm.
every like, if
Hmm.
you like, anytime I'm deciding what I'm going there's times I have the gold to buy something else, and it's like, well, in a turn, I'm gonna be able to buy a market, so I'm saving gold, and I buy tiles when there's 1 turn left before they unlock naturally. Like I am impatient, and there's multiple times, "Well, in, like, 3 turns, I'm be able to buy a market, so I better save this gold." Like, they're that important. The value of growth in the early and mid game can't be overstated.
Yeah.
And this and and it's targeted growth, which is important. Once a city reaches your population that you desire, that trade route can be moved. Unlike a watermill, unlike a granary, unlike other sources of food and growth, you can't delete this. You can't delete those. A trade route, when it ends, you can send it somewhere else, and that population is gonna stop growing. And that is the other thing, because I get questions all the time, "Oh, how do you cap your population?" You can't, but you can't, like, choose to cap it, but you can remove the trade route when the route's over, and then you got a 7 population city that, if you're lucky, will start losing population, so you have 3 districts and even less amenity cost.
Yeah, you know, but this brings up a moment that I saw in one of your games where you send a trade route early on to a city state through a fog of war with barbs
Yeah.
to get an envoy, right? And I'm like,
Yep.
what is he doing? He's going to lose that trade route. Not fully understanding that you want to lose that trade route
Yeah.
because you already got the benefit of the envoy. You want to lose it and then redirect it to your domestic city. So, like, I mean, these little tips, if you watch Soger videos, just pay attention to what he's doing. He never explains shit, but the things that
Hey,
he
I've
does.
said it multiple times. That's a feature, not a bug. All right. I am respecting the intelligence of my viewer. I assume that they are very smart and that they can pick up on context cues.
All right, perfect. Well, now it's one of your favorite buildings.
I hate banks. I
But
just,
don't you have to build two of them,
you
like
have to build 2 of them. Yes.
to boost
Yep.
to boost economics or something, right?
Is it 8 gold per turn or 6 gold per turn? I forget. How much does a bank give?
But do you ever build more than two banks?
I mean, no.
I mean, what if it's like, I guess when there's nothing else to build, right?
City
And
project.
you would choose, I guess if it's a city that provides like a solid output of gold and maybe you have Kilwa in it as well. So you get like
You
um
you can make you can make any argument you want. Um, Here's what I'm gonna say.
you told me that it's one of the worst buildings in the game. One of the
Because
worst investments, I guess.
because where does it fall on the tech tree? And how little does 4 gold per turn matter at that point?
I I I, I mean,
How
I feel like you always need gold. And
Yeah, yeah, but how much investment are you putting into the bank versus what it's going to pay out in the rest of the game?
I mean, the bank is 290 production, right? Like
Yep.
at that
What's
point,
what's the
that's not
gold cost?
much.
What's the gold cost? The 800? Or I forget, is it 800 or 1,000? Well, here's the thing. Like, the problem with a bank is a problem with a lot of things, is eventually you have to factor in, what are you actually going to get for this? Like, you invest the production, are you gold by it? How much is it gonna pay out for your investment? And would you have been better off running a commercial hub project? Would you have been better off running a campus project or a theater project for your game-winning
Yeah,
yield?
but this is hard to like estimate. Is it better for me to run? Let's say I'm tight on gold, right?
Yep,
And it's hard to tell like if running a commercial project would be better if than buying buying a bank.
m'kay,
Because what bank does also, right? If we're playing a solid suzerainty game, right?
yep,
It's one of those buildings that with six envoys you get extra gold. So if
yep,
you have a bunch of trade city states, then building a bank might be a good idea because it can boost your gold income by.
by 2. Oh, wait. No, I think it's 4 now because it says with Ethiopia pack plus 4 gold
Yeah,
for each.
yeah. So plus four. All right, all right.
Yeah, that's
Well,
better, that's
let's
better.
say like I don't
But
know. Maybe
still, that's 9 gold.
maybe there are
That's 9
three
gold per turn.
for one bank though. You have
Yeah.
several banks, then you're gonna get more gold.
Okay, but once again, when are you getting them? Stage a game. What
Yeah.
stage of game are you getting the bank, and how little does 9 gold per turn matter at that point?
It doesn't. It probably matters very little.
One builder charge can get you a luxury that the AI is gonna pay 14 gold per turn for at that point. So, do you do
I g
you do you buy the builder and improve one luxury, or do you build the bank that has, like
well,
like
because at that point you are running. Are you improving new luxuries? Like at that point, you're pretty much settled. You're either going to war or I don't know. So you're probably getting close to a point of the game where you start running projects in certain cities, right? Or no? Is
Yep,
it too
yep, yep.
early?
No, you're there. You're there. Banking, you're already running campus projects in most cities.
Hmm.
So science game, you're never gonna need it. Culture game, you're never gonna need it. Domination game, by that point, you should be living off a pillage economy. Religious game, how did you reach this technology? It's not cartography. Um, like like what and like my question is, in what victory
Uh-huh.
are you going to reach a bank and need it and think, "Oh,
And
this
build
is
more than
worth."
two.
Yeah, this is like this 9 gold per turn is going to advance me to my victory type. Like, I get, like, hearing it sounds like, "Oh, that's really going to work." And then once again, it depends down
Well,
your path down the science tree
because
as
every
well.
gold per turn you can trade as well, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I guess.
It really does depend on your path down the science tree. If for some reason you took a path that brought you straight to banking and you're getting it really early, then we can talk. But banking is one of those technologies for me that I just eventually wind up on at some point. It's not on the path to anything. Nope, nope, nope. Get it done. Where are you? You're putting it in the
But it's
category that
not.
starts with B
But hold on
but
a second.
has
It's
2
you
O's
can't put it
for
in.
boo.
You can't put it in boost, right? Because I mean,
Are you gonna build
as
it?
as a building, it provides more than just the other ones. I mean, at least I don't know. Great merchant
What's
ports,
the
for example.
what problem does the bank solve? The walls solves the problem, and it comes early of barbarians. If Babylon's in the game and swordsmen or men at arms appear, you can build walls and keep your city. What problem does bank solve? And now put it in the boost category where it belongs. That come on now. Like, and that's
Wait,
really my problem.
which side do I put it on?
Top end of boost.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
willing to hear arguments
You
on
know what?
bank.
Yeah, maybe people who watch
Yeah,
this
anyone
video
who
have some
watches this,
ideas.
give me an argument, show me a path in which banks pay off. I'm not saying this in, like, a facetious way. I like, 'cause I will admit if I'm wrong, I just in my games, I've never experienced a situation where I thought banks paid off. I am open to the possibility I'm wrong.
I was trying to make a devil's advocate point, but like play devil's advocate, but I find myself building two banks,
Yeah,
just like building two stock exchanges. And stock
mhm,
exchanges, that's
and
even
now
worse, but it's a requirement for Big Ben, I think,
yeah,
right?
no, it's not.
It's not.
A bank's isn't it a bank is a requirement for Big Ben?
Uh,
I think you've just been building the stock exchange to build a stock exchange. Have you really been building the stock exchange?
hold on a second. For some
I think we
reason,
need a whole nother category for Kane's been building this for no reason.
wait, do we? No, we need a stock exchange for something. It's not for Big
No,
Ben.
you don't. There's nothing tied to a stock exchange. It's awful. They're terrible.
You think
They're the
so?
worst building, yes.
One of the worst buildings.
I all the way at the bottom, all the way at the bottom. It costs too much, it has all the faults of a bank and costs more. I would say this is worse than a watermill because it's coming even later. It's
All
gonna
right.
start giving you the notification that you have buildings that aren't powered.
Okay,
It
so
just
so let me just also add that the boost, the civic boost it provides to is capitalism. And capitalism is probably one of the
the
it's a
worst
dead
civics.
end civic
It
that
provides nothing.
it does nothing. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know what?
So congratulations, people who said watermill wasn't the worst. Stock exchange might be the worst. It comes far too late, provides too little. Because the one argument I was going to make for banks is Molly, because they get reduced price and can buy stuff with faith. The argument there is you can convert faith into gold per turn. And there is a good argument for that. So Molly, I would say banks are very viable.
Okay, but stock exchanges is
Still
just
no.
it's just not your thing. Even though you get what +7, it's just I guess it's a
It's too late.
stacking effect with
Yeah.
banks and with stock exchanges because now you get more gold from your invoice. You know what I mean? It's
Mhm.
too late. It's too late.
The
That's
biggest key to doing well in the game is realizing when stuff has lost its usefulness. Like how I was talking about shrines are better than temples
yeah.
because you get it earlier. And temples, even though you only get a little bit later, faith does start losing its value at that point. Even though you still want to stack a lot of faith, it's just not as important as it was a few turns earlier. The commercial hub buildings really suffer from the fact that by the time you've like gotten banks, they're providing so little. It's the same thing as like sewers and like how is something that comes that late giving such a small increase?
Mm.
You know, like
Yeah.
I don't see
I think
how that's
it's
providing
Yeah,
anything.
it's very hard to argue your point because the return on I mean, I don't even know how much stock exchange is what, like 400 330 production,
Yeah.
which is not much, I guess, but it's why would you build it, I guess.
You wouldn't, just because you want the notification that you have unpowered buildings in your empire, and that's gonna bother me. Like, that's the only thing that stock exchange
Ugh.
provides me is something I have to erase every turn, and that's going to bother me.
But it has no maintenance.
Okay, but that's because it's a gold per turn building. It would be stupid to charge maintenance on
Can
it
you
when it's
imagine?
giving gold. What would be really good is if it charged faith per turn to build.
Well, listen, my mutual fund manager charges percentage. All right, anyway. All
Yeah,
right,
but he
fine.
only charges you
This
if he gives you money. If he wasn't giving you money, you would stop paying him.
Yeah, I would hope, right?
Yeah.
Um, okay, so far, stock exchange is taken at the bottom
Yeah,
place out of okay. You know what? Let's move on to the rest of the
harbor
harbor.
buildings.
Yeah, because we put the lighthouse pretty high up there, and
Yep.
well, I did, and I assume that's
Nope,
where you were.
I agree.
Okay.
Trade route.
Now, shipyard. I love shipyards if
Mhm.
there are a bunch of coastal cities,
Yep,
because production still matters at the point where it comes online.
yep,
And I feel like coastal cities always suffer from lack of production. And that production, again, it turns into, when you run projects, you can earn more yields from those projects, right?
yep.
I would it does not have any impact on the victory type, though. It's
No.
the one of those general buildings that help with production. Is there anything else that it does? I don't even know because I usually just look at that and nothing else.
A guy I talk to about Civ quite often who is really into multiplayer says that this is the best building in the game. says that Shipyard is the best building. That's his argument in multiplayer is, just what it provides versus when you get it. It's great. Um,
Why?
and
Why though? Like
yeah, and
what?
I don't know, like, and this is the part where I lose, this is the part where I lose in multiplayer games because I don't see it. Like, I'm not saying it's a bad building. I just don't see that argument, but I have no multiplayer experience, so I just take his word for it, because he's good.
Hmm.
He
Yeah.
knows what he's talking about.
Okay.
I'm like, so I think it's the naval units, that but in a single player game, which is what we're talking about, it's B tier. I mean, you could build it for something other than the boost in a lot of cities, but I wouldn't prioritize it. But if you have an early harbor city and you get to this relatively early, yeah, go ahead, build it. Might as
Yeah,
well.
I mean, if you have a harbor with like a good adjacency, right? Like
Yeah.
that makes sense to
If
throw a shipyard in there for sure.
Yeah, like, now do I now if you watch my games, are you ever gonna see more than 2 shipyards in a game? Not really.
Yeah.
But if we're taking every game, every map, if we're just saying, "Okay, you're playing a game going for a
Hmm.
sub 200 with your settings," I can see a lot of situations where I probably would increase the number of shipyards I build. Just not the settings I normally play.
Yeah, if you get that city state, what's that naval city state that provides
Auckland.
Auckland, right? Like,
Yep,
why wouldn't you build a
exactly.
couple of shipyards? But again, like you said, it's a couple. Like, you get a nice mausoleum city, maybe
Mhm.
with bunch of coastal tiles. Sure, maybe
In
that
my
would make sense too.
Yeah, in my Pound Maker game, my Liang city had all the, fisheries and everything, and it was a massive
Mm,
production hub, and literally, it was like I was hard building builders because I needed so many, and, that was a scenario where per
yeah.
turn production mattered, length of game, and that's like B tier. Like, B tier literally is, "This will solve a problem. This will,
Hmm.
give you something." And like I said, I see a lot of scenarios. They don't pop up a lot of times in my game, but I can actually see where, yes, you would do this.
The problem with the shipyard that I find, it's a coastal city that usually has a very low production to begin with, right?
Yeah,
So to hard build it is
you're
it's
gonna
not
buy
the
it.
easiest thing,
Yeah,
right? Like so
you're
you
you're
you
gonna
end
buy
up
it.
buying it. Yeah, you end up buying it and spending gold on something. So you have to make that decision. Is it going to give you the return? But again, you get it relatively early and you put
Mhm.
it in the right city. I guess it's a solid B tier.
Yeah, and
Um,
this is the argument of why gold and faith are better than production in my eyes, is
mm,
because I can generate gold and faith in any city and spend it on the city that needs it, where production is stuck in that city. If, this harbor city is going to benefit from that shipyard, I can generate the gold in my other cities to enhance that city.
yeah.
And that's where it's like, yeah, if you're a city that's going to struggle to build a shipyard, buying that shipyard's gonna get you that next district sooner.
Plus 25 combat experience for all naval units. That is,
Yeah,
that's one of the things that I never consider, even in domination games and anything, like how much experience I'm gonna get from a building. Just
yeah,
never a thing, I just get experience by combat. Um,
exactly.
anyway, all right, and then the last harbor building is the
It
seaport.
was right down there with the stock exchange. I mean, you might
Was it provides so much gold.
it comes late, there's a slightly bigger argument to be made for the Seaport because it does provide 15% towards space race projects with the policy card.
Uh-huh.
So it does have that bit of utility in that very specific instance. But outside of that, comes too late, provides too little, doesn't help you win.
Yeah, but look at the list of effects. Look at the list. Look how long this list is.
Yes. No,
Look at
I
all the stuff here. Plus
yeah.
one science.
with a policy card that comes relatively late.
But seriously, plus one science?
Yeah,
That's
it
it?
comes
You
like
get plus one science on turn, what? I don't know, 160 or something? I don't know.
I'm getting like, let's see. I think I was happy when I got democracy at like turn 150 in my Pound Maker game, and military research policy card comes after that. So one science after turn 150 in a game I did well on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Seaport, I don't know why they added one science to this building at all. But to your point, plus 15 production to space race, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. And the rest of it is just improving tiles, right? I
Yeah.
mean, you get a housing.
And once again, this is single player, and the AI does
Mm,
is bad at naval combat,
mhm.
because later on, I'm going to tell you right now, the military academy ranks higher than this, because in a domination victory, you can buy armies straight out. I don't see the value in buying a fleet and armada straight out being nearly as impactful as an army straight out,
Yeah.
just because the AI is worse at defending against naval units. It doesn't matter as much.
Hmm.
And that's the thing. Like if you play like naval heavy maps, this might be just a preference thing, but I just don't see it. If you play more naval games, I could see that argument, but I just don't see it.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not cheap either.
No, it's
Seaport.
not.
Seaport is like 440 production. Wow.
Exactly. It's like I don't think it's worth it. Like my biggest argument against almost every late game building is going to be it's a late game building,
Hmm.
because much like the wonders tier list, it's so hard to balance a late game building for a casual player, because
But don't you think that because it has 15 production towards space race project, it should be somewhere further in? That's a pretty serious
yeah, I would say it's a okay, we can put it up there with a bank. It's still just in a boost,
yeah.
like, because that's what it is.
Mm,
Like, it doesn't solve a problem. It's,
mhm,
"Hey, I've got walking around money that I can use to get
mm,
15% more production."
yeah. Yeah, this is really a Civ City building, right? Like where you
Yeah,
just improve your tiles and they all look bunch of gold and food and whatever
yeah,
else.
and that's why what I was saying is it's hard to balance for a casual player and somebody who's actually, like, balancing out what something's worth, because in a 500 turn game, that probably is gonna provide a lot.
Hmm.
Like,
Oh yeah,
it
yeah.
is.
Well, see, yeah, exactly, exactly. That's the thing. Like if you're playing 200, under 200, or even 220, like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. Um, this is here is library, so campus
Yes.
district, right? Library. I mean, okay, so I guess as soon as I build a campus, a district, I
Mhm.
try to figure out when can I plug a library in there
Yep.
just to boost the science output, right? The early science output,
Yep.
even though it might not be as important as other things, but it's like you build a holy site,
You
if
get a shrine.
you get a shrine, you build
Yeah.
a campus, I guess you put a library in your like core cities for sure because
Yep.
you're gonna boost them all the way to university, maybe even well, we'll talk about that later, but maybe even research lab. Um, but I can't. I don't know. This is kind of funky. I mean, I think it's an A tier building, but it's not an S tier for me.
Yeah, it's you're
Although, but
you're
although
hitting
it's
on something, really, really important here.
mm,
Um, you're going to have a lot of libraries. Like, but I'm in no rush to get my library. Once I get to the point where I'm just focusing on science, any library I can get, I'm gonna get, because it's science. I'm just trying to get that number as high as possible. But if I get my first library on turn 100, I don't like, I'm not worried, you know? So it's one of like, and I think that's sort of the point that you're trying to get to, is that you
it's
you get it.
important. It's
Yeah.
important, but it's not urgent.
Yes. Yes. There's
Um,
no urgency to get it, but once science is your focus in the science game, once you've built your empire, I'm like I'm getting libraries like crazy,
yeah, 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 yeah,
but
yeah.
there's many games I build my campus and I won't even get, my library for like 20, 30 turns.
Hmm.
Because it's just not that like it's important once it becomes important. And it's not a lot of science, but it's one of those things, once you get to a science game and you're running the projects, you just wanna get that number as high as possible.
Yeah, because bottom line, the science output of a library is really low, even early
Exactly.
on, right? Like
Yep.
you get more science from like higher population cities.
Yep.
But I
It's
guess I would build it in a city with Pingala, obviously, right?
Yep.
More urgently than anywhere else.
Yeah. But and that's the thing, like, I buy like I said, I buy it at the end of science games because, okay, I wanna get that 2 more science. I
Mm,
wanna get
mhm.
like, it's less than 1% of my overall science, but I wanna get that number as high as
Right.
possible because if I can shave even 1 more turn off, I want to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
I I mean, I guess I'll leave it in the middle of A because
Yeah.
it's an essential building, but I just know I don't know how high on A it needs to
Yeah.
go.
No, and like, what I was gonna say is if you're not playing a science game,
Mm,
I wouldn't build one.
right.
Like, like, I can't think of, like unless you're going for a great library and a culture game for some weird reason, like,
Mm.
I don't like, a wonder's a wonder at that point. If it's available, might as well. But, like, I wouldn't build one outside of a science game. Actually, domination game. So science and domination, I would build libraries. Otherwise, I just don't think it provides enough.
Hmm. Okay. What about a university?
University, slightly worse than the library.
It's
Like it's
worse?
how much more science does
Hold
it
on.
provide?
I'm pulling that up.
Because you gotta balance cost and all that. I would say they're the same. They fall in the exact same category for me. Like, I'm never in an urgent like, it has 2 tech boosts, which makes it slightly better, but science in general is a weak yield until it isn't. It's not like culture where if you can get a bunch of culture early, you're just blowing up. If you get a bunch of science early, okay, well, your costs have just increased. So, like, I don't know.
I guess when you look at these science buildings, you kind of like you actually made an interesting point before when you said
Yeah,
my library is going to provide me 1% of my total science, right?
yeah,
Like so I guess you have to look at it and by the end of the game when you're making 1,000 science per turn, where's it
yeah.
coming from? It's not coming from your freaking library in the university, right?
It's usually
Um
coming from population and districts.
right. But if you have built, I don't know, 20 campuses and each one of them has a university and a library,
Yeah,
then I mean, that's a pretty good share of science. Plus, suzerainities, if you're lucky and you have like 4 city states, well, let's say 3 city states that are scientific. Um, I mean, that's another level of science there.
mhm. I would actually say university is slightly better than library, but I don't think either of them
And university
are
provides
great.
housing,
Yeah, but you don't
right?
need the housing at that point.
Well, but still, it's
You've
never.
already built the granary, which is better.
But I'm just saying, it's like it's
Granary
a
has given
welcome,
you all the housing you need.
but it's
Every
a
other house
welcome
after the
boost.
granary is unnecessary. My space race people are living in the granary still. We have built modern armor, we live next to our wheat. But
and
no, university is slightly better because the reality is I'm buying my library and university rate about the same time in most cities. I
mm,
like honestly, I'm buying about the same number of them. This one's providing more science, so it's better. But neither of them am I in a real rush to build, but it just ranks higher just because of the pure number you're going to build. In a science game, you do reach that point where you just need that number to be higher.
Fair enough. I mean, I just find myself, looking for those early two universities for the boost, and
Yeah,
then to your point, it's more of like, let me get as many as I can, just because I want to grow
yeah.
my science. Um. All right, now it's to your
Cost
favorite.
energy, it's worthless
What the hell? So, how's it different in logic from a university?
because it costs energy, and if you're running lasers that also cost energy, and your research center uses your last bit of energy, you now can't send that laser up.
Well, hold on a second. But you only build lasers in your space cities.
Correct?
And you still have to get to lasers to begin with. I
Yep.
feel like research libraries, I mean, research labs rather, come with chemistry, which is pretty relatively
Late.
early. No,
Eh,
it's
well,
relatively early comparing to lasers.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
So I guess my science games are longer. So I guess mine are like 220, right? Let's say.
Yeah,
Um, and I find research labs pretty important. Underpowered research labs still provide science.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be powered. It still provides extra science from envoys. It's a
I don't know.
building. It's a building I would buy in every single upgraded campus, following the same logic to boost my science.
But you can buy two universities in the library for the cost of one.
No, I know,
Um,
but that would be an additional building if I have the gold to spare. Because
and
you're
yeah,
reaching the end of the game, right? At this
yeah.
point, you have boatload of gold, probably, and what are you spending it on?
Two
If you're in a
universities in the
science
library.
game, huh?
Two universities in the library.
Right, but what about the rest of it? You already have universities and libraries everywhere. So,
Well,
I
I'm
mean,
winning faster, so I
I,
don't.
I think research lab still has an impact, though, a direct impact on obtaining the science yield, which is essential for a science victory, for example.
I will concede your point. I would say it would be B tier. Um,
B
solely
tier with the
because
walls.
the cost offsets the value. Um,
It
if
is
you
it is
have
very expensive.
yeah, if you have that much gold that you can regularly buy these, yeah, buy them all the time if you're playing like a Portugal game or a Mali game. But if you're just playing a regular game and you're trying to really crank out that victory, you're actually not gonna have that much gold at the end of the game because you're gonna be buying, you're still
What
gonna be buying builders. You're gonna be buying all like
builders? You know what? That's a very good point. Because in a science game, you kind of
you
want to,
start getting really
yeah.
expensive, yes. And that's my problem with this is
Mm,
I don't do a lot of them because the value isn't there.
mm,
It has reached that point where, in my opinion, it's too expensive.
mm.
Now
Well, I find
I'm
myself, you would build it in a city with Pingala, maybe. You would build it in a
yeah,
city with Kilwa if it has an upgraded campus,
yeah,
maybe. But I guess you're right. I just remember being able to
mhm.
buy research lab. I guess it's not every game. That's the
Yeah,
bottom line.
it depends. Like, and that's why I'm saying I'm willing to concede it into B tier. I would say, yeah, it's worth it, but you need so much gold to be buying a lot of them, and I just don't see that happening. Outside of Portugal, Mali, Spain, stuff like that, I'd say it'd be like top B tier because yeah, it's good. Like it's good. It's just not in my opinion, it's just not feasible. You're better off if you're doing it with production, you are better off running 2 campus projects. If you like and that's my problem, is the amount of gold you're investing is too much, and the production would be better doing the city project.
Yeah, I guess the only argument is if you're swimming in gold and you
Yeah,
have so
and
much
that's
that.
yeah,
Mhm,
and that's why I say, no, I think even though I don't build them, like that argument of, hey, if you do have the economy, no,
mm,
I 100%. If you went Jesuit education, actually, I'd say that probably increases in value quite a bit.
mhm.
Like I would say probably right up there with library and university if you're buying it with faith, because at that stage of game, your faith has sort of dropped off and you're just using it for great people.
You know what? The fact is that it's probably one of the better late game buildings.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
gonna put it right here for now.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
You are.
Well, you have
Why?
no control
No,
over
no, it's B. We have B for a reason
it.
because that
What?
belongs there.
No, because B is kind of like, yeah, it has an impact on overall game. It has no direct impact on a victory condition.
Yeah,
Whereas
and it solves a
A,
problem.
yeah. Well, here you're earning. I think we should just leave it in A for
No,
now. We'll revisit it. We'll revisit it.
no, yeah, let's put it in B, and then we can revisit if it should be moved up at the end of the video. So
do you
put
have
it in B.
do you have to win every argument? No, you don't. So it's okay.
Okay,
All
fine, leave it in A. No, let's have
Um,
this list be absolutely ridiculous.
All right. I mean, Theater Square itself is an important district, which comes, but in the culture victory, let's say, which
And
comes a little later, right?
yeah.
Genuinely.
And this is gonna be different than the campus buildings because theater square buildings have an actual one-to-one. It's helping you win because it can help get you great works. And just like culture isn't what wins a culture victory, science isn't what wins a science victory. Completing the space race projects are. So the theater square buildings, I think, are better just inherently than the science buildings for that fact, if that makes sense.
I mean, how does it help you earn great works by
It
the
helps you store
points?
them, which gives you tourism.
Store them. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And that's
Um,
where I say it's inherently better because if you put a work great writing into an amphitheater, you're now earning tourism. Where if you no matter how many libraries you have, they will never finish a space race project.
hmm hmm
Like where
So
an
you would think that this is probably one of the more, but the museums and amphitheaters, I guess, would have the same impact
yes.
following your logic, right? Because of the slots.
Yep.
Um, where would you put it though? In Is it an A tier or does it have to go into S tier?
See, and
Uh,
that's where I'm struggling because I can see my argument for amphitheater and museum both being an S tier. I like
well, because
either
it's such
museum.
a direct and
Yeah,
strong
it's
impact on culture victory, right?
because
Like
it's this building helps you
it's
win.
essential. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's tied directly to the victory type. It's not adjacent to the victory type, which campus university
hmm
is adjacent to the victory type, if that
hmm
makes sense.
hmm
So
So
and
let me see. So let's talk about the
yeah, so
museums.
amphitheater obviously is gonna be up higher. Now museums,
Like so we have two museums
yes.
technically, right? We have the dinosaur museum, the archaeological, and
Yep,
then the regular uh arts museum.
yep,
So arts museum is more versatile in the sense, and it's more important because it goes with Pingala, right?
yep.
Um
Archaeological museum does as well.
no,
Yes.
Pingala doesn't have a impact on artifacts.
I assure you he does.
Are you serious?
This is always my
Wait, wait,
favorite
wait.
part. This is
Oh,
always my favorite
God
part
damn it.
when I say something and then you just get quiet for a while. Like
Well, so
that's
so you keep talking. Let me look at the.
oh my god, I'm wrong. I am wrong. Are you kidding me? I'm wrong.
Yeah, it's art, music, and
Oh my
writing.
god.
Yeah, don't bullshit me.
I've made that mistake multiple times.
Really? You would build it
Yes.
in Pingala City?
Yes.
Oh
Oh
man.
god.
Oh god damn. Wow. Why?
All right, so like and I was about to make the argument that archaeological museum is better than art museum.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do something like this.
I still like, and here's the thing.
Hmm,
I still think archaeological museum might be better just because
why?
like I used to hate archaeological museums. Like I'm gonna say, I'll be honest, I used to build one and never again.
Okay,
Uh but I have now gone the opposite way
but
because
why?
most games there's a lot more archaeological sites early than you can earn great artists. Even buying every piece of great art, there's more archaeological sites by the time I reach them. And it comes down to how early you're reaching them versus how many archaeological and shipwrecks there are.
Here's the thing, but does the Bengalis 100% tourism impact this? Like, are you saying you would
The, oh,
bring them?
perfect. Thank you. Thank you for rubbing it in instantly. No, Pingala does not impact this. So you should not build it in your Pingala city. You are correct.
No, no, no. But I'm saying, wouldn't the arts museum be worth more than archaeological museum because it can double tourism with Bengala's curator promotion?
Yes, one art museum can be doubled by Pingala, but only that one.
Here's the thing though, like with the
Yes.
arts, a great work of arts, it's
Yep.
I find myself, yeah, it's harder to earn points, but you can go shopping, right? Like you
Yep.
can buy it from AI. You artifacts are not there for sale. You have to go and find them. You have to get the archaeologist out. I feel like, well, at least I guess in my games, art is easier to come by because my games are longer. So
Yes.
I guess that's
The
why.
longer you, well, and that's why I'm saying I think on average archaeological is the better one if you're winning fast. Now,
Hmm.
if you're winning slightly slower, are of Russia, Pericles, if you have a civilization that went really heavy into culture early, the art museum might be better. But now I would say they're a lot closer than I thought they were.
Hmm.
Before I realized I'd been wrong about Pingala all this time, uh, I was going to say archaeological is way better just because you can get it earlier. But the Pingala synergy this one is really dependent on game.
I
I'm going to
mean,
be
yeah,
honest.
but imagine you're theming the arts
Yep,
museum, right? Like, and then
which
you're
I hate.
doubling it
Yep,
with Pingala. I'm
yep.
just saying, like, it's a huge
I
boost
know
to tourism.
you're gonna bring up that Pingala doubles art multiple times. Thank you very much. But
But
religious art doesn't give religious tourism, all right, Kane?
here's my argument for the archaeological museum being an S tier. I build it in my science games,
Yep.
but yeah, because I can sell artifacts infinite number of times. With as long as you don't fail the museum, you can sell those artifacts to the AI. And in
Okay.
a science game, it's such a huge source of gold that you can spend obviously on whatever else you need.
I thought you were saying you were gonna build an archaeological museum for the boost to combustion.
Well, yeah, but then, but then it's also a source of gold,
Oh,
which
okay. Yeah.
which wasn't obvious to me for a long time. But now, I mean, that's part of the reason why it's also in S tier for me.
Yeah, no, I think, like, and like I said, it's a weird argument to say that the theater square buildings are overall better than the campus buildings, but to me they are.
Hmm.
Like they are.
Well, hold on a second. We forgot one more theater square building.
Nope, never build it. Like unless you're playing a science game where you conquered two cities with theater squares and you can get the boost to satellites, don't build it. It like you need so much money. You need so much money and you need to get so far down the science tree to get this that like it's one work of great music. Get the Great Merchant that has the 2 slots to banks. Get Apadana. Get other places to store your great music. This only has 1 slot. It o it only has 1 slot of great music. It's not good, it's bad. It's so bad.
It's very late, right? It's
Yeah.
so late.
It's the exact opposite of the research center where, okay, the research center is alright for a late game building. This is everything that a late game building that's not worth it in one place. It's not providing enough of the yield. Everything just isn't enough.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because, like, it's too culture. Like, it's just not it's not enough. And just the fact that great music slots are hard to come by doesn't add any value to this, in my opinion.
Mm. Yeah.
Like,
So
if you have unlimited money and it's the end of a culture game, buy it, but it's significantly worse than the research lab.
yeah, I mean, it's the end of the culture game, but like at that time, wouldn't you be looking for tourism rather than culture itself, right? Like,
Yeah,
I mean, I guess maybe you're running the culture projects, theater projects, and hoping for musician. But
yeah,
other than that, maybe you bought great works of music, right?
yeah.
Acquired it and you want to store it. But beyond that, this is probably the least impactful building out of the districts so far, right? Like, I mean,
Stock exchange.
oh, yes. And bank. That's right.
Yeah.
And Seaport.
But this is the one that provides a
Um,
game-winning yield that is just
mm,
not good.
and late. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess maybe I'll throw it in the middle of B.
I would put it at the very bottom because
Yeah.
honestly, you build it in your Pingala city just to have one more piece of music in there. And the same argument for research lab can be made for this, just it's significantly worse.
Hmm.
If you have unlimited money, like if you just have so much gold, yeah, buy it. Like
Right.
it's more tourism.
Right.
I'm not saying you shouldn't buy it, but it's not it's not a good investment.
Hmm.
Like if you have other things that can help you, this costs too much and provides too little.
Okay. Agreed.
And never use the production. Like, at that point, just
Eh,
use production on a culture project
yeah, it's super expensive. Production wise, at least.
or a faith project to buy another rock band. Like, just anything else.
Literally anything else. What should we do next? We have industrial, we have encampment, and the government,
I don't know,
diplomatic.
let's jump into, let's go to that encampment.
Encampment. All right, so I'm gonna drag the both the barracks and the stable together because I
Yep.
don't see how they're different, except they provide in what faster production time and experience or something like that.
They provide more experience. I don't think faster production time.
Oh, even worse. So, what are
Yeah.
your thoughts? I mean, I guess let's talk about it in terms of domination
Yeah,
victory.
this is gonna be solely domination victory. I still don't think
Well,
it's worth it.
mm, well, I mean, it would be also science victory,
Mhm.
right? Because you got to get the military academy.
Yeah, but at that point, I'm buying that district on turn 170, and I'm gold buying all these buildings, so just because I have to
Yes.
buy them to get them all the way. Um,
Also, stockpiling aluminum in a
yes,
science game, right? Like I find myself actually building a couple of encampments for stockpiling purposes so that I can trade, well,
trade
like
more.
trade more. But
Yeah. Here's what I'm gonna say.
I don't know
Ev
where it would fall. Is it a B? It has to be a B tier,
I would
right?
say every single encampment building is B tier, even in a domination game, because unless you're Alexander.
Mm.
because his provides an extra bonus. Why are you building an encampment? Like, even in a domination game, why are you building an encampment? A campus would be
Stockpiling. Stockpiling strategic resources, right, to support your units. That would be one of the reasons I would build them. Um,
okay.
but if you domination, usually AI builds plenty of encampments, right?
Exactly.
Generally.
But this is my argument. Okay, so let's say you're getting ready for war, right? You're like, okay, in 50 turns I'm going to war. Which one is going to help you in that war more? An encampment or a campus that's going to get you to swordsmen?
Right. I mean, but in this video, we're talking about the buildings and their impact.
But this is
Th-
why I'm
th-
saying
this
I
has
think
to
they all
assume
go into
you're built an encampment, right? Like,
yes.
so we I guess we're discussing like what impact does barracks or what is it
It
called?
gives you 25% more combat
No,
experience.
but what impact does it have on a victory, on a winning
Minimal.
the game?
Nothing. Like it doesn't help. And this is my thing. It like
I find building an encampment in the capital for in a science game, right?
yeah,
For that 15% boost, but that's military academy. So
yeah.
these two buildings, the barracks and the what is it called?
Stable.
Stable, they have no impact whatsoever
No, they
technically
don't.
on their own.
Yeah, they give you 25% combat experience. And I get it. Promotions are great. But I'm not like the problem is like, and I'm gonna keep going back to this.
And
Okay, you build the encampment in your capital or one of your high production cities. Okay, is that where you're gonna get your units out of? Or are you gonna buy your units on the front line? Like,
mm,
so now in order to get that, you have to build units in that city. And if you're doing a fast victory, these are not providing anything. They are just they're just there. And I don't value it. And I'd say boost era score. What like whatever. Like you
well,
build it.
I mean, they're stepping stones, right? They're stepping
Yeah.
stones on the way to Armory that allows you build military engineers
Yeah.
who you need to boost more stuff.
Mhm.
Stepping stones on the way to military academy that will allow you to buy armies, right?
Yes. And that's where I say a military academy, I would say is B because being able to buy an army straight up is huge. Like in a domination game, I might even say if you got an encampment in a city you conquered, getting that military academy, if you can buy armies on a new continent or in the middle of somebody else's empire, that's huge. But now, am I gonna buy a stable or a barracks in a city I just conquered so that the units I buy get 25% more no, I'm not. The armory, am I get no, I'm not. I'm not gonna do either of those. But I might buy up to the military academy so I can faith buy an army. Like, yeah, I'm definitely gonna do that. But the other 3 are just a means to an end. It's the buildings you have to buy to be able to buy the army outright.
Would you? I assume military academy would still go. Should it go into A?
I would
Because
say
of the armies and because of the 15% towards
I would say
space.
low A just because in a domination game, that is huge.
Mm.
Now, once again, the caveat is you're not building it in your cities, you're building it in a conquered city. You're like it's
But as a building itself and
yes.
the impact it has, right?
Yes.
It actually it's worth having.
Yeah.
Whether
And
you
like I
build,
said,
yeah.
land units are just more valuable than naval units in my games. I don't play a lot of naval heavy maps. So like if somebody wants to argue that the harbor building that allows you to buy fleets is the same thing, all right. But in my opinion, a tank army is better than a destroyer army. It's infinitely better. Like it's more the utility is just way better.
Mhm. Yeah, and the armory don't really build it to build cores.
No,
Just doesn't happen.
Yeah,
The only reason I would build it is again for more stockpiling, but also military engineers. I might build the
to get other
railroads, and all of that stuff.
yeah.
The castles, right? Built two
Mhm.
forts. So armor in itself, I guess, provides again serves as a stepping stone to get
Yeah.
military engineer, to get more boosts and
I would
whatnot.
actually say barracks and stables should go in the bottom category just because I don't ever build them because
Yeah,
I
as
want them, I
buildings,
build them because I
yeah,
need them.
you
I've
know,
never thought, "Ooh, if I got a stable, this would be better." Once again, Alexander's provides unique stuff, so yeah, build that one. But,
yeah,
like,
I don't even know where to put them and boost. I agree. I agree. I think
they're
armory
better
definitely.
than watermill, like, so I think they're good. They're better than
Oh,
a watermill.
hold
They're
on. Well,
like
yeah. I mean, we'll do something like this.
yeah,
Like,
like like,
no.
and anyone who's gonna bring up, like, a great general, you buy great generals. Like, you got faith, you got gold, you're pillaging. If you want a great general, buy 'em. Like, great people points are the worst way to earn great people. So much easier, just buy them.
Mm, good point.